let's look at Briggs Laboratories. You can just zoom on the map to Briggs Laboratories. I'll quickly run you through what our tactical module is about in FU, where we teach squad leaders about base layout. The idea behind this training module is that it gives you language and sort of a quick analysis of how bases are, so you can position yourself and communicate that effectively with your squad, so you're not always clustering on the cap point. So, Ripit, are you still there listening?
Yes.
All right, good. Let's do this quickly. I should be streaming this as well, so we can share the video with people. So, on Briggs, you see the yellow squares, the enemy spawn room. Lanes, when we talk about lanes, that means the default movement of players in the base, and we're assuming they're just, random players. They're not experienced players who can do more advanced movement. So the capture point is the yellow circle, the blob, approximately there. Now the enemy will be moving. The primary lane will be going directly for the point. There's another lane that will be going for the vehicle spawn, and then you could say that there is a third lane that's going in through the building there. So these are sort of the generic movement pattern of players who are spawning into a base. We're assuming that we're attacking Briggs Laboratories. So let's switch color. I'll take the red color to symbolize the TR. We have three hold on. There we go. We have three different positioning in FU. They're generic, but they're useful most of the time. The first one is proximity defense, which means you're essentially within a grenade throw of the capture point. So that would mean proximity defense is the red area that is in proximity of the capture point, so you can immediately respond to it. You're in close quarter. There's another positioning that we call flanking position. A flanking position is a spot where you can intersect the enemy movement. You can intersect it with fire. Sorry, I'm getting tired. You don't stand in the way of the enemy movement, but you can shoot into the enemy movement. So the red circle and the dotted line symbolizes the line of fire. So you can shoot into how the enemy is moving, but the enemy is not actually moving through your position. Primarily, they're not moving through your position. You could maybe argue that the L-shaped building next to the point is also a flank position. It's a bit a gray zone there. It's kind of proximity defense, but it's also a bit like a flank. Another flank on this base is the vehicle terminal. Again, that is kind of a gray zone. You are intercepting the enemy movement directly from the spawn, but you can also shoot into the enemy lanes moving for the point. It's also a secondary position. Secondary targets are vehicle terminals, generators, kit terminals, anything that's you can interact with, but it's not actually the capture point. So those are flank position and proximity defense, or proximity position. There's a third one which we call forward position. That will be the building next to the spawn. A forward position is in between the capture point and the enemy spawn, and it's intersecting directly the enemy movement. So I repeat: proximity close to the point, flanking positions who are not intersecting movement but can shoot into enemy movement. And then you have forward position, which is in between the point and the enemy spawn, directly intercepting enemies. So this is the basic layout. Once you're experienced as a squad leader, you can see this on your minimap. You don't need to bring up your map, and that's the point. You get used to quickly assess situation and movement, and then you can communicate it to the rest of the group using better language than just telling people to move to the radar dish or move to the vehicle spawn. You can instead flanking positions or whatever. Sounds better, people like it, it's more theatrical as well. Any questions?
But this is more for a platoon leader, right? I mean, a squad leader can't split the squad in like 3 or 4 groups, or?
That is correct, but if let's say you're just leading a squad, you can still use this to assess where's the best way to position your squad. So if you see that, let's say the proximity area close to the point, that's overrun with friendlies, that's tightly held. You also see that the vehicle spawn is tightly held by friendlies. Then you can assume that maybe the I'll put a number 1 next to the red circle. It's actually the radar dish position. Maybe you move over there, so you're not clustering your squad in a place that's inefficient. You can instead find more options. So it's useful as a squad leader as well, but of course it goes hand in hand with platoon leadership.
I feel like personally I use the minimap and map layout a lot on squad leads because the different buildings have different tactical profiles, and you gotta adjust to the base's like flow of enemy movement and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you see, you can see on the minimap where the red dots are starting to sort of appear. You can see like a stream of enemies moving on one of the lanes. The same thing applies if we have friendly sunderers. Now in this space there's I think 3 generic places. The green circles, those are usual Sunday positions. Now you can assume that from those positions you will have generic movement of friendlies as well. This is getting a bit crowded with arrows and stuff, but bear with me. So you see these green arrows are the generic movement of friendlies. If you have a Sunday on the east side of the fight, then you know that there will be a pressure of friendly players coming from that direction, which means that you are less likely to have to position your squad in that area. Instead you should move south, and vice versa. If the south Sunday is all you have, then perhaps trying to move into the north side of the base is more advisable for your squad. We're assuming that since you're leading an organized outfit squad, you are more effective than public players, and you should try to take the initiative in the fight. The last thing I will say about this is, if we lose the capture point, it gets overrun. If it's a 50-50 fight, we lose the capture point. It's vital that as a squad leader you're quick to get back on your feet. A lot of people, including myself, sometimes just stares at the map. We don't really have any plan for what do we do when we get overrun and pushed off the point. What you should do in that situation, if at all possible, is you start securing friendly lanes. You defend the sunderers, and then you move up. Let's use blue as a way to symbolize this. You use the whatever cover you have. Try to secure the lane. You don't need to push the point. The point is not a primary concern right now, because if you push in, you will just die because it's overrun. Secure the lane for friendly players to get in. If you are able to secure the road, you move on, you secure the building. Don't push the point. Secure the building, Make sure that friendly players can get all the way up there, and when they are able to start pushing out from the building, then you start to push out as well. So it's really important, because people either freeze, they don't have a plan to what are they going to do once they get pushed off, or they do spawn in, but they push directly for the point in a scattered fashion, and they are ineffective. So secure the Sunday, secure the lane where people are moving, and then secure the entry position, like the building. And once they get to the point, you start securing flanks. And then you move on. You can turn a lot of fights if you do this, because the enemy pushes the point, then a lot of the enemy players will be like, okay, the fight's over, we can redeploy away from here. So the enemy diminishes its strength. Or a lot of the players who push the point have been killed, or they've just run out of grenades and nanites, so they're not as dangerous and effective anymore. So people really like it once you get pushed off and you push back in and you cap the base. That's 10 times sweeter to win a fight like that. Any questions? Alright, well, this generic model applies to almost every single base. You can analyze most of the bases. Some of them don't have forward positions, especially older bases on Indar. They're way too small, they're way too simple. But yeah, enough about that.
I actually have a question.
Sure.
God, where's Snake Ravine?
Snake Ravine, that's on squad waypoint.
Yeah. How would you attack that base?
With overwhelming numbers.
Oh boy, alright. So, tacticals, there it is. Yeah, I feel like that base is particularly problematic without force multipliers.
Okay, well, let's look at it. Okay, so we have... Okay, enemy spawn is over there. The capture point is over on the yellow circle. There is
no zone deploy radius is immense.
True, yes. This is like super easy to defend this base. Okay, so you have a forward position, which is the small building, but essentially nobody can stay alive. It's so close, the enemy can essentially throw grenades from the spawn room directly in it.
Yep.
And then you have upstairs or downstairs on the red area.
Where you also die.
That's also a forward position. So there's no flanks here. There's a wall around the base. You can't really flank. The only way you could possibly flank is there's a small gap in the wall.
Where do you put your Sander?
You put it under the bridge to the north.
Under the bridge, really?
Yeah, or somewhere you can. Let's take.
I put it as close as possible south, but it's also pretty bad.
Yeah,
because it's exposed to enemy vehicles.
Yeah, you run past the enemy spawn, so.
Yeah, it's not good.
The only position you really have in this base where you can sort of tactically position yourself is the blue square building, but that has no real value except for securing friendly lanes. So this base is a horrible design, absolutely horrible, because if you're fighting with one squad versus one squad, it's fine, but this is Planetside. So most of the bases are way too small. You should instead, if we're still looking at Snake Ravine, zoom out from that, alright? Zoom out so you see the whole hex of Snake Ravine.
Mm-hmm.
How about you make the bridge one of the key components of capturing this hex? You have to hold the bridge, vehicle point or whatever. How about putting some other, maybe the other bridge? Why not? Well, both bridges are important for capping this base. Plus you have to maybe cap a base. The capture point in this base, the actual A point should be moved to the blue square building. I'll just for simplicity, I'll squad waypoint building. That's where the capture point should be.
I mean, I think altogether they should redesign the deployment. Like it's the AMS no deploys on is ridiculous. If you compare it to like Alatum Hub, where you can literally put a Sunder outside their spawn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many bad design choices here. I think simply because Planetside is so unique, they don't really understand. They didn't understand how to design bases.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, they've done improvements. You see it now with the some of the bases they updated. It's much better.
Yeah, indeed.
So I think the fact that they have flawed bases like this, and these are the bases we have to fight on all the time, has driven away an immense amount of players because it's not enjoyable.
It's not fun, yeah.
In the slightest. Plus, once you get 100 players clustered in that small base fighting, it's going to turn into a turn-based shooter.